are. So Mike Sofka is on my left. Look at me knowing what I'm doing now. I know how to do the things now. I know how to point because you got to do the opposites. Oh, are we, hold on. Let me get it going. There it is. And there's love in the building. So Mike Sofka and myself, Dan Tortora, are here with you. You can see that ticker on the bottom. The ticker on the bottom is giving you some new information. And Mike, I don't know if you know this, but we just released something here. You're watching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And at the same time, we have some really awesome and new information about this, is that the Dan Tortora Broadcast Media Network, the DTBM network, has expanded to feature a live weekly schedule. Wake Up Call stays 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. In addition to that, Super Powered Pop, our entertainment show on music, movies, pop culture, and all these things going on, Netflix, Hulu, interviewing actors and actresses and novelists and illustrators and writers and whatnot, they will be joining. And all of this is this show, the Super Powered Pop Show, is going to be every Tuesday and Thursday on Facebook Live, facebook.com/livenowdt from noon to 1 p.m. for your lunch break. And Disney Afternoons was a big thing when I was growing up. Dan on Disney Afternoons is going to be every single Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live as well. So that's running on your ticker on the bottom here, and you're also seeing the typical information that we have on Wake Up Call on the internet, streaming radio, and all the good. So with that being said, Mike is here with me. We're hanging out as we always do. I'm in the Charney's Menswear and Tuxedo Studios, and he is with us from Central Florida. And today we're talking about the AFC wide receiver situation. We've discussed with you the quarterbacks of the NFL on all 32 teams, the running backs in all 32, and we're about to give you half of the league with wide receivers because there's so many wide receivers and there's 16 teams to talk about. So with that being said, Mr. Sofka, welcome to the broadcast and happy to have you as always.
Thank you. Good to be here. I'm excited. Wide receivers is something I'm very passionate about in the fantasy game here, simply because, well, there's a lot of different dynamics and there's so many more of them on the field usually, especially in this pass-happy and RPO-happy offense that we have today.
No, and I'm very excited to have this conversation because of the fact, like you said, having this pass-happy. And the thing is, when we're talking about the wide receivers around the league, there are so many to discuss. I mean, there's some teams that have 4 that are draftable. Some teams have 1, so it's different in every situation. There's been a bunch of changes. Antonio Brown's in Oakland now and not Pittsburgh. Odell Beckham is a Cleveland Browner now and not a New York Giant anymore. So these changes have really created some open opportunities. And the Baltimore Ravens are trying with these rookies to make it work and make it something special. So I'm very excited to hop into the conversation. And I want to start in the AFC North. So I'm gonna start with the Baltimore Ravens, Mike, and just your thoughts on this. The expectation is a lot of running with Lamar Jackson, but they went out and they drafted young wide receivers to bring them in and give them an opportunity and see what they're capable of and what they can do. So what are your thoughts on the fantasy situation in Baltimore?
Yeah, I like it a lot, actually, especially if you're in a dynasty situation. I don't think that these receivers they have today are going to produce top flight wide receiver ones for your roster. But if you're in a dynasty situation, if you have a rookie draft coming up, there's some names on here that are going to attract your attention. And the first name is Hollywood Marquise Brown out of Oklahoma. Now, he didn't do too well on my adjusted explosive index, but the bottom line is I didn't have all the data. He didn't participate in all the things at the draft that combined to make that metric up. Now, I got this metric from Raymond Summerlin a few years ago, and this is a great way to establish where rookies are and where they're going to project to be in the future. Now, I didn't have the data for Marquise Brown, who's supposed to be the highlight. He's supposed to be the better of the wide receivers that they brought in. But Miles Boykin is almost off the chart. He's right up there with DJ Metcalf. If you have a number of 106 or higher, you're going to do real good, and his number is 108.48. And what that means is This is a guy you can count on for years to come. This is a guy who's going to be on a roster. He's going to be a possession-type guy. He's quick. Miles Boykin is a big-bodied receiver. He's 220, okay? So this is a guy that you can get the ball over the middle. This is the guy who's almost like another tight end, yet he's fast. He ran a 4.4. So I don't think Willie Snead. I don't think Jordan Lastly. I don't think maybe Chris Moore. We haven't seen enough of Chris Moore. And I'm going to tell you something. Chris Moore, if they start targeting him, he could be a diamond in the rough. But they also brought in some other guys. Michael Floyd, I'm not sure if he's going to be around. Joe Horn Jr., I guess. They got a bunch of names. But the two names I'm excited about, and the only two names I would target wide receiver-wise on Baltimore is in a dynasty rookie situation, and those guys would be Miles Boykin and Marquise Brown.
Yeah, and I think, and like you said, you're mentioning the guys that they went out and they drafted and gave an opportunity on this. And Joey's putting out Skins, rookie wide receivers. He's a Redskins fan and very excited about the upcoming season. And we appreciate you, Joe, for tuning in and being a part of this, and everybody that has. When we look at the situation from the wide receiver stance, and like you said with Marquise Brown, just what he's been able to do. First wide receiver taken in this year's draft, and to have and he was taken 25th overall right before N'Keal Harry went out of Arizona State to the New England Patriots. But Brown, to have what he has, 5'9", 166 pounds. Think about this, not the biggest guy, he's an inch taller than me, but to be on this team that he's on and to know that they're going to try and open it up, they don't need these tall guys and this, that, and the other. I mean, they're going to try and move this ball on the ground, get the ball out when they need to, pass when people don't think they're going to be passing. Lamar Jackson, I'm sure, is working on his accuracy and his arm strength and his mechanics and everything. So, I like the fact that this is going to be an offense that's going to, move it rather quickly. And that is why I am wearing the shirt that I'm wearing today. I'm a huge fan of the Flash, but I'm also a huge fan of speedy wide receivers. So, and not just speedy wide receivers, but receivers that have hands. So, you gotta have good hands for it, Mike. You gotta have some big hands to grip the ball and take it in. So, let it be that I found a way on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora to shamelessly plug Superpowered Pop with Dan Tortora, wearing the speed of the Flash and the hands of the Gauntlet. So, just got to show some love there this morning and have some fun with it. But the reality of it all is, are they guys that we're going to have to lean on, in fantasy? No. Are Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin the guys that you're going to have to trust to carry your team? Absolutely not. But, if you got to go deep and there's a bunch of guys that are chosen, is it a bad option? No. But at the same time, I'm still waiting to see what this little experiment's going to look like, so I'm not going high on the Baltimore receivers. What do you have in Pittsburgh? As we now know, Dante Moncrief, who was with the Colts, spent a year in Jacksonville, was healthy for the most part. Now he's with Juju. Eli Rogers, he's going to have to figure this out in Pittsburgh. I don't think he's got too much time left there as an undrafted free agent in 2015 from the Louisville Cardinals. And James Washington's got to figure it out as well out of Oklahoma State, as he was drafted in 2018, and he was a second-round pick, so pretty high. What is your take on this new situation in Pittsburgh with Juju now being the number one guy, Antonio Brown's gone, and they need to find a number two and a number three?
I think the guy in the future, again, the guy that you might look at in a dynasty situation is Deontay Johnson. That's a long-term name. I'm not sure he's going to be able to step up or fight through the crowd right away. Moncrief is going to fight for some playing time, but Juju's the man there. Juju Smith-Schuster is one of the top receivers in the league to target, just simply because of the way they're going to use him. I think he's going to be overdrafted in a lot of leagues. I got him as a number 6 PPR wide receiver right now, but I do think he's going to be overdrafted because people are expecting Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was able to have somebody on the other side to avoid that double coverage that would warrant looking out for as well. So you'd see a lot more zone coverage. And even when they were in man, sometimes they would double up on Antonio Brown. I've yet to see teams really double up on Juju. And when you double up on Juju, is James Washington going to be able to answer? Is Eli Rogers going to step up? What's going to happen with Deontay Johnson? Is he going to be able to get on the field? Ryan Switzer, who they brought in, who thought might just be the return man, now he looks like he might fight to be getting on the field too in the slot. So it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. Going to be watching this during preseason. I still think Juju Smith-Schuster is warranted of a wide receiver 1 spot on your roster, but I think you're going to have to overpay for him. So just be careful. And for more on that, stick with us. Stick to my site. I'll tell you exactly where you should draft them and where you shouldn't draft them.
Yeah, and I think that people are going to go really high on Juju. I think that some leagues that, and some Steeler fans might try and pick him first overall, which I don't think you can. I think he can finish a top 10 for sure, a top 5 wide receiver maybe, but, it is, and I had the conversation yesterday, it's about who is going to step up and create space, because Juju has had himself a nice little young career in the NFL, but he had the number 1 arguable receiver in the nation on the other side of him that was opening up his space. Now we have to see if he can create opportunities for himself and if his team will help open up opportunities for him. So where is that going to be? Does he have the ability to break away and do it himself on a consistent basis? We don't know yet because he hasn't had to. And on top of that, is the team going to create for him some more opportunity? Is Jalen Samuels going to do what he needs to do? Is James Conner going to continue to grow and blossom? Is Benny Snell going to get in and do some good things in the backfield? Is this offensive line going to continue to impress? Is Big Ben going to continue to show that he can play, and that even though his nickname is Big Ben, he's not a man out of time. He's somebody whose time is on his side. So there's a lot of ifs, and then the defense, Devin Bush, and the things that they got. What are they going to make of all of this? How is it going to work out? What's it going to look like? And where can they go from here? So there's a lot of question marks around what Juju is going to do output-wise, but I still feel good about him. I think he's a top 10 guy. As far as wide receivers go, I think he could be a top 5. He's not my number 1 pick, and my number 1 pick is a running back, but he is still somebody that I would look to in the, I think you could swing him in the second round if people go crazy on running backs. I think you could swing him on the way back type of situation, but just be wary of going too high and, like Mike said, overpaying for the situation. Cincinnati Bengals, what do you have for this wonderful plethora of crazy?
Yeah, Cincinnati made some moves, and I agree with some of them, but it looked like they really shored up their backfield. They took some guys late in the draft, and, it's all about A.J. Green. I mean, that's what it's about. But last year was the explosiveness and the arrival of Tyler Boyd. We'd seen the speed from Tyler Boyd, but he started to put it all together. Tyler Boyd is the guy that I almost like better than A.J. Green, if you would. I got A.J. Green as number 13 on my PPR list, though, and I think he's just outside that top 10 for a reason. I don't think his team's very good. I don't think their defense is very good. I don't think their offense is very good because I don't think their quarterback is very good. They got some good players. They got some great pieces. They got some guys that you should look at for your dynasty or redraft roster. Joe Mixon's a stud. Giovanni Bernard's a PPR beast. If you're in dynasty, you got to flip a coin almost between Travion Williams and Rodney Anderson. Which one of those guys is going to be the guy to step in? They say if Joe Mixon gets hurt, Travion Williams could be the guy of the future, but Rodney Anderson seems to be the guy who's ready to go right now. And I think that's going to play some into what happens with the receivers. They have Tyler Eifert, but he's been hurt in the tight end spot, so that's affected the receivers because C.J. Uzomah is not Tyler Eifert. And then last year they let Tyler Kroft go this year to Buffalo, so now they bring in a Drew Sample. Look, it's going to take time for this to gel. They've got some young, good pieces. Joe Mixon is still a young running back.
Yeah.
But the failure of Andy Dalton to consistently produce is the problem. They brought in a Ryan Finley. I don't know if he's the answer or not in the next year or two. But A.J. Green is the guy you can target. A.J. Green is your number 2 receiver. If somebody wants to draft him as a number 1 in the first round, let him. Second round, let him. I might even wait till the third round on an A.J. Green, but he's number 13 on my wide receiver ranking right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing with A.J. Green. You and I had a conversation about him last year, and I said I just don't draft him high because he doesn't stay healthy. He's not healthy, and he's not consistent. And, we were talking about, you had him you had him higher on your board, and I put him low. And I just said I'm not going to draft him. I stay away from him because I just don't like the situation. I don't like the fact that he's not healthy. I don't like the fact that they don't have a number 2 guy that they can lean on. And I just feel like Cincinnati's in a place right now where they're, focusing on Andy Dalton and A.J. Green and, how good that was and how good it could have been instead of, looking to the future and preparing. Tyler Boyd hasn't been bad, but I lean more on Tyler Boyd than an A.J. Green if I'm going to go out and draft somebody. Not as high, obviously, but, I think Boyd's going to be around. John Ross has yet to show us what he can do. There's a bunch of other guys on this team right now that are trying to find their place, but I don't trust in Andy Dalton, which affects my trust in A.J. Green because somebody's got to throw the ball to him. So, for me, for Boyd, I don't feel horrible about it. Somewhere in the middle of the draft, not a bad pickup, but A.J. Green's probably yet again going to be another guy. Not probably, he will be another guy that I don't go after because of the injuries, because that creates inconsistency, and because of the fact that I just don't trust Andy Dalton to be the quarterback that's going to help get the ball out to my guy at the time that I need it to win my game. You got to look at the entire situation. Can't just say, A.J. Green's a really good player. He's a really fantastic player, Dan. He can catch the ball. Oh, my God, he's so good. Did you see him in the past? You see 5 years ago? I don't care about that. What I care about is, can he help me win my games? And that answer right now, in my opinion, is no. And if that's going to stay that way, which it looks like it is, because Cincinnati, I don't think it's going to win more than 5 or 6 games this year. I'm not going with it. But then there's the other team in the AFC North that we typically don't talk about in the most positive of ways. Mike and I have checked our forehead. We've checked the temperature. We've gone to the doctor. We've asked a lot of questions and kind of said, do you think that it's all right? I feel faint. Because the both of us, think that the Cleveland Browns, oh my God, are actually going to have something to offer this year. Now, I thought last year was going to be something. And we saw remnants of it when they finally let Baker Mayfield do his thing and, they changed some things up and whatnot. But they have Antonio Callaway. They have Odell Beckham Jr. They have Jarvis Landry. They have David Njoku at tight end. They have Kareem Hunt, pardon me. I keep wanting to say Keenan. Can't say Keenan, Daniel. They have Kareem Hunt. It's like Keenan and Kel. I watched it when I was growing up on Nickelodeon. Maybe that's what it is. Kareem Hunt is there after week 8. They have Duke Johnson Jr. They have Nick Chubb. They have this talent. They brought a bunch of guys in on defense. So on paper, Cleveland looks good. On paper, it doesn't look as sad as it has in the past. But with that being said, they still have to play the games. What are your thoughts on this, Mike? Odell, Jarvis, 2 number 1 guys on the same team. Antonio Callaway, a guy who had an interesting time in college and was a Florida Gator kind of, sort of, but did some good things last year for the Cleveland Browns. So where does this team sit right now in the fantasy world?
Yeah, I think a lot of this stems around the play and the playmaking ability of Baker Mayfield. Yeah. Hit the team by storm, hit the league by storm, number 1 overall pick, and you can't second guess why that pick was made when he got an opportunity to step on the field. He created excitement. He made things happen. He brought that team back into relevance. They were able to make guys who may have not have been believers in an Odell. Odell and Jarvis Landry are friends. They've been friends since their time together at LSU. And you know what? I don't think 2 number 1 caliber type guys could function in this situation on any team but Cleveland, on any team but where these 2 guys have that friendship from LSU. I don't think there's going to be bickering and arguing over, who's the number 1 guy. I think they're going to share that role to some extent. But it's not, let's just call it what it is. Odell's the superstar, flashy guy, and Jarvis is the guy who can really, be do the yeoman's job and put in the work, yet still put up those Odell-like numbers. So I think you can't go wrong with either one of these guys. I do like Odell as a number 4 overall receiver this year. Yeah. And when I give you these numbers, I'm giving you PPR, of course, and I got Jarvis down at number 25 simply because there really has to be a 1 and a 2. There really has to be an X and a Y. There really isn't a 1 and a 1A when it comes to the receivers in that respect, in the way targets are shared, in the way game plan is constructed. And you can't throw out you can't discount Antonio Callaway, the speedster who had a cup of coffee with Florida. This guy's got NFL talent and superstar written all over him. They added some depth. They brought in some guys. Hey, Rashard Higgins last year looked pretty good in that role as well. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to put Jarvis in the slot. You know, Odell's going to be the one guy. Jarvis in the slot gives you a tremendous mismatch. Look at Julian Edelman. Look at the success Cole Beasley even had in Dallas. Jarvis Landry in the slot. That's your PPR guy.
You know, it's turning into something special because Landry doesn't have to be the guy and Odell doesn't have to be the guy, and Antonio Callaway can be an accent. And if Antonio Callaway got himself in trouble, God forbid again, they have the talent to back themselves up and to continue to move forward. This is a team, I don't know how long it's going to work because, you know, because of Antonio Callaway stuff and Odell Beckham. I don't know how long all of this is going to stay together, but at least for this year, they're going to try and make a push. They're going to try and make a plunge. They're going to try and make it happen. And I'm excited to see what they could do. And, you know, a zebra to me, you know, some people think they can't, but I think they can change their stripes. I mean, Antonio kept himself, as far as I know, you know, in good standing with the team and did what he had to do. And Odell Beckham Jr. decided to go to Cleveland and give it a shot here and play with Baker Mayfield. So, you know, I think that for this season, at least, we're going to see a team that's going to be collective, together, and vying for a championship in Cleveland, really believing that they can get after it, believing that they can be something, be a playoff team. And I'm excited to see what they can do with this. You know, I agree with you. Jarvis Landry is a lot more attractive here than he was in Miami. And Odell Beckham Jr. is attractive wherever he goes, but he's with a young, flashy quarterback, which I think is going to help him out. You know, Baker's going to have that style, that pizzazz. He's going to show emotion, which is very different than what Odell's had with Eli. So I like it. You know, and Odell leaves the Saquon Barkley area to have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So he's still going to have a backfield that'll help him out. And I think there's positives to be said about that. I think the Cleveland Browns are going to score points. I think that their defense has gotten better. This is a team that can hold you to 20-something, maybe even in the teens, but then score 30-something. So I like the air it out approach, and I like the fact that because there's so many different weapons on Cleveland that are reputable, it means that, like Mike said, whichever one you pick, you still have an opportunity to find your points and to find a place with Jarvis Landry or Callaway or Odell Beckham Jr. So if you miss on Odell, you can get Jarvis, and then you can, you know, go after Antonio Callaway somewhere in those, you know, 4, 5, 6 rounds, depending on how things happen, and have yourself another guy that could set you up and do some good things for your future. So I think this is one of those situations that's good because of the fact that there's so much that defenses are going to have to spy all over the place, which means somebody's going to get open. Could frustrate you from week to week because it may not be Antonio Callaway if you got him, may not be Landry every week, may not be Odell every week, but I think the talent is there, and if Baker does what he's supposed to do and this team can move forward the way it looks like they can, then Cleveland's going to have one heck of a fantasy season for you. Hopping into the AFC East, we have the Julian Edelman, now Demaryius Thomas, N'Keal Harry, who was drafted, Philip Dorsett, and so on and so forth on the team. Your thoughts, Mike, on the Patriots that back-to-back seasons have now spent money and a high pick, a first-round pick to be exact, on a running back last season in Sony Michel, and this season in a wide receiver in N'Keal Harry. They don't go high on this stuff, but they need the talent, they need it now, and they need to help out Tom Brady as he gets older. Thoughts on N'Keal Harry and company in New England?
You know, my feelings are mixed. And when we talk about this with the running back situation in New England in past, where one guy runs for 6 touchdowns and 5,000 yards in 2 games, and we're in a game, and let me shave that back. Let me make it more realistic. 3 or 4 touchdowns and 150 yards in a game, and then the guy's bagging groceries next week, and you never hear from the guy again. Or Rex Burkhead, who you think is going to have an impact, and then they go out and move some other pieces around, and James White's the guy, and they draft Sony Michel.
Yeah.
This year, the Damian Harris. So it brings a lot to question, but they've never drafted a receiver this high in the Belichick era as they did in N'Keal Harry. I think that N'Keal Harry can stretch the defense. I think one of the first plays of the year is going to be a deep ball in N'Keal Harry and make everybody go, wow, they're going to really air it out and stretch it out, and that makes the Sony Michel that much better.
Yeah.
You got to temper your expectations. No matter what happens, Harry's still a rookie wide receiver. And outside of Randy Moss, rookie wide receivers usually take time to gel.
Yeah.
There's a few exceptions, maybe a Mike Evans because of the situation, but Randy Moss is the one that comes to mind right away. He's like a Dion. These guys are on an upper echelon of greatness. So you can't expect that coming in, but I don't think a Philip Dorsett's going to be a bad player. I think he's going to be more of a possession guy. N'Keal Harry's going to have a chance to start right away. Julian Edelman's going to be that traditional slot guy, and he's going to put up some solid PPR numbers. I don't think Dontrelle Inman is going to do anything here, and I think Demaryius Thomas is a long shot to make the roster even, but if any team can turn around where Demaryius Thomas's career has gone in the past couple of years, it is New England. You're bringing it back, Braxton Berrios. Here's my favorite name. Now, you being from New York, you ever hear of a clothing store? I think it was a men's clothing store, Jacoby and Myers. You ever hear that from back in the day?
I have not.
Okay, well, they got a guy named Jacoby Myers, and I remember Jacoby and Myers when I was young, and it just blows my mind. Look, the bottom line is this, you got to go in with a New England receiver with the expectation of, I'm going to have some good games, I'm going to have some bad games, but this is where the Mendoza line is, and look at where you project that guy to be, or you can just go to my site and I can tell you.
Yeah, that's the thing. And Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com is where you go for Mike Sofka to check out what he's got going on, and definitely appreciate all the work that you're doing there every single day of the year, Mr. Sofka. So, I think the New England Patriots, when we look at N'Keal Harry's numbers out of Arizona State, he played in 12 games in 2016, had 58 catches for 659 yards, 5 touchdowns. He also ran the ball a little bit. And he ran the ball in all 3 seasons he was at Arizona State. He scored a touchdown in 2 out of the 3 seasons running the ball. In 2017, he played in 13 games, had 82 catches, 1,142 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. He had 9 touchdowns most recently, got over 1,000 yards again, playing in one last game with 73 catches. So you add in arguably that extra game with Arizona State, and you could say he'd get the 9 catches that he would need to match the year before, and then he would get the yardage to match that as well, and then he had 1 extra touchdown. So this is a 1,000-yard receiver that's coming in. Like a Sony Michel, it's a big-name guy who could do some great things who the Patriots normally don't spend money on, but they are right now because, as I said, he's getting older. Brady is getting older. They got to build for the future. They got to have flashy guys that can get around the field to do what they need to do to help this man out. And I think that obviously having Sony Michel takes some of the pressure off of what Brady has to do throwing the ball. And then N'Keal Harry to see, just what he's been able to be for, his team at Arizona State, to know that, he could toss it out to him and let this man go. And you got a talented young wide receiver. Now, Demaryius Thomas, this past season played in 15 games, some of them in Denver, some of them in Houston, and didn't put up really great numbers. He had 677 receiving yards. He was targeted 89 times. He caught 59 of those, and he had 5 touchdowns. Not bad, okay, but this is not the Demaryius Thomas of 2012, 13, and 14, when he had double-digit touchdowns in every single one of those seasons and over 1,400 yards receiving, including 2014-15, when he had 1,619 yards, and in 5 straight seasons was a 1,000-yard receiver. So, like you said, if anybody can resurrect it, it'll be the Patriots, but the Patriots tried out with Austin Seferian-Jenkins, let him go. And, as time moves on, we've seen that the team that can usually resurrect some careers of receivers has not been able to do it with some of the most recent guys. And Demaryius Thomas, we'll have to see. Now, if Thomas comes through and gets back to being himself, then you have Julian Edelman on one side. You got Demaryius Thomas on the other. You got N'Keal Harry doing his thing. So, you got a lot of good coming through that. And like you said with Philip Dorsett, I want to mention his numbers here because he's somebody you can get late in your draft more than likely. If we look at Philip Dorsett, who used to be a former Colt, to see what he did the last couple seasons in New England, he had, only started a couple of the games. He had 194 yards receiving in one, 290 in the other. He had 3 touchdowns last season. So not a big-time numbers guy, but he is somebody that you can grab and stash, have as a third receiver on your team or in a crisis situation. But I feel good about Edelman. I feel good about Harry and Demaryius Thomas. Our drafts are late August, early September, so we'll know kind of where things sit at with him and the Patriots by then, I would like to think. But really what it comes down to is if Demaryius makes this team, he could be a sleeper that you pick up somewhere in the middle of the draft or in the latter part of the draft when somebody says, hey, is Demaryius still playing football? You pick him up, you give him an opportunity on your team, and he does. He has the opportunity to be a tremendous sleeper or to just fall asleep completely. And that's really what it comes down to when we look at that. Going into the next one in the AFC East, the Jets. Hey, they got this guy named Sam Darnold. He's not that bad. And they brought in a guy, Le'Veon Bell, who spells team M-E exclamation point. So what are your thoughts on the Jets and where they go at the wide receiver position?
Look, I think there's going to be some guys that you can get some value in the Jets. And just because of targets and the situation, they're going to get the ball. They're going to get the ball thrown to them. I think it's going to be the Le'Veon Bell show. I think they're going to try to get him the ball 400 times if he's still on the roster. And I did say 400 as in total touches. Yeah. And I not just rushes. But here's the thing. I don't think Gase liked Bell or liked what they were paying or liked what they were doing for the roster and bringing Bell in. So I wouldn't be surprised if his tenure is short-lived. However, if they do stick with the one that brought him, that's going to open some things up for Robbie Anderson. It's going to open things up for Quincy Enunwa. And I think you can get these guys and have them be your wide receiver 3 when they're the number 1 targets on their team. I think Jamison Crowder's going to do fine out of the slot. I think he's going to be the PPR target there. The tight ends don't scare me. The only thing that worries me is what is Le'Veon Bell going to do? Are they really going to utilize him? Is he still going to be there? I mean, that really worries me. I'm probably the only guy saying this, but if the head coach / GM, the same guy with both titles, didn't agree with you being there, and ownership jettisoned the guy who agreed with you being there, there's a problem in the upper office, and somebody's doing something or not doing something. But we can't let that stop us from our rankings here. I think a Robbie Anderson would be a good wide receiver 3 on your team. I think a Quincy Enunwa would be the guy to take just above him, though. If you have a choice between the two, I would take Enunwa. He's going to be a forgotten guy with the injuries he's had recently. So, again, I think there's some value here, but temper your expectations. These are not top-flight receivers.
No, I mean, like Mike said, Quincy Enunwa and Robbie Anderson, worth the thoughts. A lot of people are going to overlook them. A lot of people are going to ask you who the Jets' number 1 wide receiver is, and here's my answer. And people are going to say, who's that talented guy that's going to carry the Jets this season, and here's my answer. And then people are going to ask me about Le'Veon Bell and what he can be to the team, and here's my answer. So I don't know. That's what the Jets are. The Jets, as I said years and years ago, covering them in SUNY Cortland, they are the Broadway show of the NFL. They decided years ago to focus more on being in the newspaper and not the why they're in the newspaper. They want to be the show. They want to be the Broadway show that's so bad you talk about how much it sucks. It's not, you look at the front page of the New York Post and it's Eli Manning hoisting a trophy doing the unthinkable over the Patriots. You go to the back and it's, hey, there's that guy on the Jets that went and bought a cheeseburger and we watched him eat it. That's just what it is. It's news, but it's not football news. It's talking about a team, but it's not talking about their successes. It's saying that they had an opportunity, but they didn't necessarily take it. It's going to see a Broadway show saying, why did I pay $70 to watch this? Why did I pay $70 to watch Le'Veon Bell's one-man show and watch him put on a bunch of different wigs and have different haircuts and talk about how good Le'Veon Bell is, okay? Your hope is that the Jets will be good. But as I said over and over and over again, and in the first hour of the show, when you have a player on your team that's a head case and is all about themselves and not about the collective, there's an issue. And Le'Veon Bell, just because he's got a new jersey on and he's in green now, not black and gold, doesn't mean he's not Le'Veon Bell. Okay? It's just reality. So he's talented, but he's also missed a year of football, which makes him susceptible to injury. He's a running back, which makes him more susceptible to injury statistically. I hope that he doesn't. It's just a statistical fact. On top of all of that, he loves Le'Veon Bell. We know that he won't go to practice if he doesn't feel like it. We know that he'll give up $14.5 million if he doesn't feel like being there. So Le'Veon Bell is a talented a talented running back. He's the best option the Jets have at every position. But he's still Le'Veon Bell. And until this changes, and this changes, the question mark is up there. So who's the best option with the Jets? To not draft the Jets, probably. Robbie Anderson's not a bad choice. Somewhere in there. Quincy Enunwa, but I'm telling you, I'm going to have drafts this year where someone's going to say, Dan, who's a wide receiver in for the Jets? And I know that at the end of the season, at the end of the draft, there's going to be people picking up these guys that everybody forgot about, including, I mean, it is. It's just a very sad, strange Jamison Crowder as well. If I'm Jamison Crowder, I'm begging to go back to Washington. So, who's going to be the guy once again for the people in the back? But draft who you want to draft. The chances that they'll be available in round number 17 are very high. Moving on, and thank you to John, my buddy from college. Thank you to everybody that's watching. We're live in Spain right now with the Carracao family and the Gutierrez family. Thank you to my family. Hello. Hola, ¿cómo está? In España. So thank you so much for tuning in. Me llamo Daniel, and I have with me Mike Sofka, and we're happy to be here hanging out with you in Spain, in America, and all over the world. Thank you to my buddy John for tuning in. Love you. We had some great college moments, and I appreciate it very much. In college, I realized how much of a prankster I truly am, and my Saved by the Bell moment of roping John's roommate Steve's door to the janitor's closet and him not being able to leave his room for 2 hours was a automatic win. And I trust myself and my rope door tying extravaganza heroics more than I trust all of the Jets. With that being said, we head to Buffalo. They're spending money. They brought people in. They have hopes in Zay Jones, who's got one more chance, I think. They got John Brown, who left Arizona to go to Baltimore to leave again. Cole Beasley, who is a nice little addition here because he's not afraid to go over the middle and get after it, coming from the Dallas Cowboys. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills? Josh Allen's out there as their quarterback. Are there wide receivers worth taking?
No.
All right, back to more.
Look, Zay Jones is a question. I'm still waiting for this guy to show up. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if I can count on this guy. And until I know I can count on a guy, I'm not going to draft him. So he's undraftable to me. Although to some, they're going to see him as the number one there. John Brown's the speedster. He has what it takes to be a number one, but I get to see it. Cole Beasley maybe can be an effective slot guy, a la Adam Humphries. Yeah. When he was in Tampa and what they're trying to do with him again in Tennessee. Robert Foster, is he going to show up? I'll tell you what, if you're in a dynasty league, take David Sills. Take him very late in the draft. If you're in a dynasty rookie draft, David Sills. This is a guy you can get really cheap. He caught some long balls from Will Grier, West Virginia. This guy has the talent for the long ball. This guy's always been underappreciated. This guy used to be a quarterback, and I have a thing for guys that used to be quarterback and switched to receiver through college, and then they end up blowing it up in the NFL. It's amazing because those guys are smart. Those guys know everybody is and know what the dynamics of the team game is. This is the ultimate team sport. But we're basing it on individual performance, and that's okay because you need to have some talented individual performers to have a talented team. But I think Cole Beasley understands that, and I think that's a David Sills type concept. He understands that he's not always been probably the number one recruit at his position. That's why he had to switch from quarterback to receiver in college. Yeah. He wasn't going to do himself or the team any good, so he changed positions, and now he's going to strike gold again in the NFL, and a lot of people won't see that. I see that he's a game changer in the future. I don't think Andre Roberts or Ray McLeod are going to do anything. Isaiah McKenzie, I'm not worried about the Nick Easley. I don't even know if he's going to make the roster. There's a lot of no-name question marks here. Stay tuned to the site for more as the season gets closer. But I wouldn't be excited about any one of these guys outside of getting one of them very, very cheap, very, very late in the draft.
We could just do this. Buffalo Bills. That's all we have to do. Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills. What was that name? I don't think I heard it. And we move on. So, with that being said, David Sills, he played at West Virginia, was a quarterback, and then turned into a wide receiver. At the quarterback position, didn't really do much of anything. Came in, had 7 catches for 131 yards receiving in his first season with West Virginia, almost 20 yards per catch, and then went on to get 60 catches in his second season with West Virginia, 980 yards, 18 touchdowns, then 65 catches this past season, 986 yards, 15 touchdowns. So, he could be something of the future with Josh Allen. But the Buffalo Bills, if you missed what I had to say, Zay Jones, I covered him in college. I appreciate Zay Jones. I love what he did with East Carolina. Tremendous player. Had a lot of fun covering him. Really want him to step up and be something special. But as of right now, your Buffalo Bills, if you're on the clock and you draft a Buffalo Bill, I hope that someone – oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the wrong one. There it is. You think I'm going to get Andre Roberts. But guess what? You think it's going to be good? But it's not. Hey, N'Keal Harry, guess who he plays for? Not the Bills. Have a great day, folks. I just wanted to use those two. So the next one up are the Miami Dolphins. What are your thoughts on the Dolphins now with Josh Rosen as their quarterback?
Look, we've been waiting for Devontae Parker to show up for I don't know how long. They've given him the keys. They've told him, look, you're our guy. You got a guy in FT and Kenny Stills. Bryce Butler is going to be in the slot. Isaiah Ford. This is almost as bad as the Bills. Miami's got no business being in the East this year. They're going to get blown out. They're going to get killed. They're going to get run over. I feel sorry for Josh Rosen. Maybe this is going to be another one-year stop. They're saying, some people are saying tank for Tua already. I think Josh Rosen's a good quarterback. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is able to air the ball out. So I think either one of these guys is capable. I think they will be playing a little bit from behind, so that could come into play. I think Kenny Stills is a little bit undervalued, but look, none of these guys strike fear into the hearts of any defense, and Devontae Parker's got to show something. It's a gamble. He has the talent. He has the tools. He has a quarterback now. But I'm just wondering if it's going to happen. I think some of that centers around the lack of a running game with Kenyon Drake. I mean, if they can throw, 8 or 9 guys in the box, well, they don't have to because the running back doesn't scare them. So maybe they can drop back 7 now because the running game doesn't scare us.
Yeah.
So, all that stuff's dangerous. There's a lot to be said yet in Miami. We've got to see who's going to show up. But if you are going to draft one guy, Devontae Parker's the guy they're going to try to get the ball to. And the Kenny Stills, I think, has a little bit of upside here.
Kenny Stills will probably be taken late. I think that his numbers end up making you feel a little bit better. Devontae Parker, we've been waiting on for a long time. To recap the AFC East, advice from Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com and myself, Dan Tortora of WakeUpCallDT.com. This is our easiest way to recap the AFC East. Drafting a Miami Dolphins, Buffalo Bills, or New York Jets wide receiver. Drafting anything that's named a Patriot. Okay, so that's all we had to do. Look at all the love that we get for that. All the stars and the happy and the goodness. There was one tier, so maybe that was somebody that's a Jets fan. I'm sorry. Going into the AFC West, let's start with those Denver Broncos. They are trying to rival the Cleveland Browns in seeing how many quarterbacks can play in just 3 seasons combined. They now have Joe Flacco. They have Garrett Grayson, Kevin Hogan, who, wait for it, was a former Cleveland Brown, and they have that guy that they drafted, Drew Lock. Somebody's going to try and get the ball to Emmanuel Sanders, who has now emerged as the number 1 guy. Cortland Sutton in his second season, I call him hands. And for those of you that are wondering what that is, I'll bring it back for you. These are the type of hands that Cortland Sutton has. This is what he has. He's got hands like this, okay? They're good. They're trusted. But some people want to use this little beaut, the time stone, and go back to when they had the defense and they had Peyton Manning and they were winning games and making it happen. The Denver Broncos are a giant question mark. Yet, unlike the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins, they have talent that's supposed to make that question mark somewhat turn into an exclamation point. Your thoughts on the Denver Broncos, Mr. Sofka?
Well, they're two premium receivers. They're two number one guys. Emmanuel Sanders, who's 32 years old. That's right, 32 years old. Ancient for a receiver, but they're still going to pay him a boatload of money. He's still going to show up, and he's still going to be the number one guy. He's still going to be the number one guy on a team with targets. And he can thank that to the running game being opened up by Phillip Lindsay. They're going to spread that around a little bit. I think Royce Freeman's going to be a little more involved. That's going to open things up better for the receivers. You know, the two things that their number one receivers have in common, both went SMU. Cortland Sutton out of SMU, still relatively new to the team, a couple years now. Emmanuel Sanders is the guy, but Cortland Sutton needs to show his worth here. And Deshaun Hamilton, where do you go? Penn State, I think. Is that right? Oh, I got to look that one up. That's going to bother me.
Yeah, he went to Penn State. Penn State.
Yeah, State. He, you know what? Let me tell you something. Deshaun Hamilton has what it takes to be that efficient guy, that slot type guy, yet he can stretch the field. So the jury's still out here. Joe Flacco, I think, still has something left in the tank. He's not the answer. That's why they brought in Drew Lock. He's the stopgap guy. But if they can continue to run the ball effectively with a Phillip Lindsay, with a Royce Freeman, if Devontae Booker finally knows how to read the playbook after 4 years, this would be a dynamic situation where you can get a receiver relatively cheap. Maybe Emmanuel Sanders can put up some consistent yards because teams are going to be threatened by that running game. Teams are going to be threatened by that short passing game.
Yeah.
But Flacco is a guy who can high arc ball and in that thin air look for a lot of large touchdowns. So in combo leagues, in leagues where you can get rewarded for distance on specific plays or touchdowns, these guys might be the guys to target. Denver receivers, get them late in your draft. Think that one of these guys alone is going to take you to your fantasy championship, but it wouldn't hurt to have one of them.
The grin that you had at the end sold it all, okay? That's what brings it home, Mr. Sofka. You said all the good words, you had the pause, and you did it. And that's what would make me vote for you for president. You got to have that last pause, hit, help you win, and then the boom. You know that. It's the kink. You know, wait, hold on. Let me see if I can get it right in timing. Let's do timing. That's all you got to have. You got to make it work like that. So with that being said, stay beautiful, San Diego. But the Denver Broncos, Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton, I'm excited about it. Dare I say it? I think Joe Flacco, who's got this year and maybe next year, I think he's going to do enough. Like you said, I'm excited about the ball being out there because he's going to put it out there to these guys who are speedy, who have abilities. Cortland Sutton's got hands. So what I like about this is the fact that I actually think if you draft Sutton or Sanders, you got a chance. In Hamilton, you could get him late. People are going to forget about him. I mean, you and I will know who he is, and a lot of people are going to let him kind of dip and probably fall out of this thing. I think he'll be on the free agency pool. So, but Sanders and Sutton, somebody's going to take these guys. I really, really like them as a supplement to my team. They're not going to be necessarily my number one or number two guys that are picked, but they're guys that I really honestly think that Flacco is going to get the ball to them, and they're going to make the magic in the open field. They're going to make something out of that ball. And so I think they're both draftable. I think they're both steals. I think you can get them both, later on in the draft. But either one of these guys, I like Sutton more than Sanders. But at the same time, Sanders does not let you down. He does some great things. And Cortland Sutton, he just came out in 2018, so we're waiting to see, what he can do as he steps into his second season. But I'm excited to see it. And Deshaun Hamilton, I think, is going to be, one of those guys, like I said, one of the names that's left out there for you to pick up. The next one to speak on are I said stay classy, San Diego. Well, we're going to go to the Chargers, but they're in L.A. right now. Unlike the other team of the AFC West that dedicated themselves to another city, they are actually in that city. Remember how you say, oh, hey, girl, I don't think we should date each other anymore. By the way, can I sleep on the couch because my new girlfriend lives with her parents? That's what the Raiders feel like. Hey, we're going to Vegas, but not yet. I'm leaving you, but I still may need you to keep my toothbrush in the bathroom because I don't really know how this thing's going to shake out right now. So we'll talk about the Raiders in a moment, but before we get to that wonderful steaming pile of dumpster, let's get I'm sorry. I had to. Let's go. And Raiders fans are just, anybody that wears skull bones and bones all over their body, they're the people that look like the extras of Pirates of the Caribbean that were in the background of Jack Sparrow. So with that being said, we'll get to you in a moment, Raiders, because I know you're feisty. The Los Angeles Chargers are where we're heading first. Keenan Allen, he's got talent, inconsistency, but he is their best option. Mike Williams out of Clemson, if he can stay healthy, we'll see. And so on and so forth. Shout out to Jeremy Davis out of UConn, who I covered, who made the team. But what do you think about the Los Angeles Chargers and their world right now?
Look, Keenan Allen's a wide receiver one. Keenan Allen's a guy, if you have on your team, he can take you to the promised land. He's number 9 on my ranking PPR. I think that Mike Williams is going to put up some solid numbers. He's in the 25 to 30 range on my ranking PPR. So wide receiver 2/3. I think he's going to be improved on what he had done last year. Here's the thing. Travis Benjamin is still there, and he's a speedster. This is a guy that won't go away. This is a guy who's been hampered by injuries over the years, but he had some time with some other teams, including Cleveland. Dylan Cantrell, I'm interested to see what he's going to do. They brought in Jason Moore and Fred Trevelyan this year. But, a lot of this has always been centered around the tight end play. For years, they've had Antonio Gates there. Hunter Henry, injured again last year, was able to come back late in the year. So they brought back Gates again at 150 old, and he did yeoman's job on some red zone plays. But you could see him lumbering out there. It wasn't pretty. Yeah. Look, they're going to have to get play out of these wide receivers. The running game opens that up with the dual threat of Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. Either one of these guys can also catch the ball out of the backfield, which is dangerous. Even when Austin Jackson steps in, one of the few teams in the NFL to play with a fullback most of the time as well. That sucks that defense up, and that's what opens up a Keenan Allen, a Travis Benjamin, a Mike Williams. So you can count on some production from these guys. Keenan Allen, a top-rate wide receiver one. Look out for where to draft him as we get closer to the season.
Yeah, Keenan Allen is a guy that, when he stays healthy, I like him. I really do, and I think that the last couple seasons he's done well. And so that's obviously, kind of put him back on my radar. Mike Williams, now Jeremy Davis doesn't really get targeted much at all. Travis Benjamin doesn't have the numbers because of injury, but I do like him, and I do think, that he's talented on this team. Mike Williams out of Clemson that I covered while he was there, he had 10 touchdowns this past season, 664 yards, 66 catches. So a sixth of the time that he caught the ball, he was scoring a touchdown, which is kind of interesting there. So I do like that, and I like the value of Mike Williams. And I think that, he's a guy that can dip now because of the fact that people aren't buying into him as much as they were. Keenan Allen will go quickly, and then, you got Mike Williams sitting out there. He's not a bad number 3 guy to have at wide receiver, or a number 2, depending on how he plays this season. And Keenan Allen, on his side of it, he's a 1,000-yard receiver the last 2 seasons, almost 1,400 yards in 2017-18, and almost 1,200 this past season, just 4 shy of 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. So not big on the end zone, but big on the yardage and PPR and all that good stuff. So I like Keenan Allen as one of your high wide receivers to take, and I like Mike Williams as somebody that you can steal. Now let's go to the dumpster fire. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Oakland Raiders. Guess what? Here's a spoiler alert. If they lose all their games, they raid the streets. If they win all their games, they raid the streets. The good thing you don't have to worry about is they won't win all their games, but they'll probably still raid the streets. And for the people of Oakland, you're going to have to deal with that until they go to Vegas. And then you can send them out to the desert, and you can't raid a desert of anything other than what you see in the Mirage world. The Raiders are on the clock with John Gruden. 10 years, $10 million a year. We're waiting to see what it's going to turn into. They drafted 2 defensive players in the first round and 1 offensive guy. They're trying to make Josh Jacobs the running back that they haven't had in years. Marshawn Lynch is still trying to figure out if the green Skittle is lime or green apple. and we are where we are right now. Thoughts, Mr. Sofka, on the Raiders?
Well, I'm not sure that, even though John Gruden says he's sold on Derek Carr and that Derek Carr's his man, I'm not sure he really believes that yet. And this year will be the telltale sign of where we are in years to come with Derek Carr in Oakland. I think he's a capable quarterback. I think they've now given him the weapons around him. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be phenomenal with the abilities that he has. He'll draw up and defense, hold things up for an Antonio Brown. And by the way, the Raiders always the second chance place. If you think about it, they lack directional schools. Now, if you're a guy who can't get a ride at a big school, Clemson and Alabama and Florida, Antonio Brown, Central Michigan, he just signs a fat contract. They run out and pursue Tyrell Williams, Western Oregon. So if you're at a directional school, you still got time. Now, this year they did draft a guy from a big-name school in Clemson and Hunter Renfrow. And if you're in a dynasty league, this guy's going way late in rookie drafts. Go ahead and take this guy now because he's going to impact the Raiders in the slot. I don't think J.J. Nelson's going to be the answer there, but look out. Ryan Grant may still find – this guy keeps getting try after try, appearance after appearance. Everybody's giving this guy what – okay, you're here, do something. Hopefully he does this time around with the Raiders. We'll have to see, but Antonio Brown, I like him still. You can't deny he's going to – if not for stubbornness, even if it's not performance, stubbornness, to prove that we were right, we are going to throw the ball to Antonio Brown. He's going to get the looks, folks. He's going to get the targets. Look for Terrell to try to break away and be that guy. You remember the Jaguars days, back in the days? Who were the two big receivers they had back in the heyday with those
Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell.
Yeah. Look what McCardell was able to build off because they were on Jimmy Smith on the other side. Look for that same type of performance out of Tyrell Williams. They're going to be able to get the ball. He's going to have solid numbers too, almost like a 1A, but he's not going to be drafted that high. You can draft him as a 3 or a 4 wide receiver, but get that 1A to wide receiver 2 production out of him. And again, look for more of the exact rankings as we get closer to the season, but obviously Antonio Brown's your wide receiver 1.
Did you see how quickly I answered that for you, Mike? Who are those receivers? Keenan McCardell and Jimmy Smith. Because it's been such a long time. Number 87, number 82. Oh, my God. I just can't. So that's where I'm at right now. Okay? I have filled a bottle full of tears. So, I mean, it's just, it's sad. It's heartbreaking.
What's sadder is I asked you for 2 wide receivers from the Jaguars, and you had to go back that far to find 2 that were good.
Yeah, well, that's right. I had to go all the way back to the glory days. Who's the best quarterback? Mark Brunell, same team. Marcus Stroud, Tony Baselli, best left tackle that they had on the team. Fred Taylor, best running back they had on the team. Donovan Darius came from Syracuse, one of the best safeties they've had on the team. Aaron Beasley, one of the best corners if I go back in time and I put it all together and it's just talent, besides like Jalen Ramsey and maybe some of their linebackers and a Puzzlesny now, all the best Jaguars came from those teams in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and all that stuff. So it hurts. It's sad. I will tell you that I went to the Cave of Wonders and I found a genie, and I'm trying to talk to him about bringing me back in time and maybe, just maybe, giving me that team now and some more Jimmy Smith and Fred Taylor and Keenan McCardell days and Mark Brunell. Because it hurts, and it hurts deep. It cuts like a knife. I'm sad about it, and I'm pretty sure that Taylor Swift wrote a song about it. So with that being said, the Oakland Raiders, they're going to throw the ball to Antonio Brown. You're right. For the stubbornness of Brown and just to show Pittsburgh what life is really like, John Gruden's going to do this. He's going to throw the ball to him because they're pissed, because they're angry. Antonio went to John Gruden and said, I want to go on Instagram and I want to take some pictures with my new man, Derek Carr, and I'm going to tag Ben Roethlisberger in all those pictures. So what's it going to be? Who knows? Because Derek Carr, I don't think that him and John Gruden is just a feeling, but I don't feel like they're this. I don't feel like they're this. I feel like they're maybe this. So they're not so much together as they are separate, and Big Ben, to me, is the better quarterback. But Antonio is an Oakland Raider. Terrell Williams is going to be out there. His numbers aren't bad. You can get him later. People are going to forget about him. They're going to try and draft him and think that he's a Charger, and then you're going to say he's not on the Chargers anymore, and they might pull their pick. So Terrell Williams is a guy to think about, and Antonio Brown. Besides that, it's a bunch of randoms that are out there. So I would feel good about you getting Antonio Brown, not with the number one pick like you normally would think about, or a really, really high pick or the first wide receiver off the board, but you still pick Antonio Brown for his namesake. I just don't know what this is going to showcase, if he's going to be able to hit those numbers that he hit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because normally when you do somebody dirty, it all comes out in the wash. So we'll see. He's still a good wide receiver, but what he's going to be is not as high as what I think he was at Pittsburgh. Terrell Williams, though, is a good bet because I think that he is going to benefit from the fact that every focus is on Antonio Brown. With that being said, we have to go to the other team of the AFC West. Do we have to, Dan? Yeah, we do. Well, who's their wide receiver? Who the hell knows at this point? It's supposed to be Tyreek Hill, but we'll see. Sammy Watkins, another Clemson guy, trying to resurrect his career, did a few things, but not the guy. They have Demarcus Robinson. They have a guy named Garrett Dieter. They have Marcus Kemp, who is not the brother of Sean Kemp. Could he be one of the 17 children of Sean Kemp that he had while he was going on the dream team around Europe? Maybe, just maybe. But besides that, we're just throwing our hands up in the air and waving them like we just don't care, because who knows who the guy's going to be. Chris Conley, who could have stepped up, is a Jaguar now. So the best bet for the Chiefs is Tyreek Hill, but what's going to happen in this grand scheme is up in the air. And Sammy Watkins is a guy that we're still waiting to kind of show up. So they have Pat Mahomes. We know the ball's going to somebody. How confident do you feel in telling someone to draft Sammy Watkins or Tyreek Hill, or dare I say it, Marcus Kemp?
Yeah, this is the sticky situation here. Now, the good news for Tyreek Hill and Tyreek Hill fans is it appears they've dropped the case once again, even after that video surfaced. So, I don't know all the details of suspension. I know he's suspended right now, and I don't know all the details of when he's going to be back. So look for more answers closer to the season here. But let me give you a couple names here that are going to get you some value. So go ahead and stash these names right now, especially with looming suspension for Tyreek Hill. Demarcus Robinson. This is a guy not due to lack of talent, but due to lack of ability to get on the field the past 3 years. Now, guys usually gel at about the 3-year mark. This guy's ready to go. This guy's always had talent out of Florida, kind of like an Antonio Callaway situation. All talent in the world, had some bumps in the road in the college, but he's still talented. So they're still going to give him a chance. There's people say, oh, you got to have the same rules for everybody on the team. No, you don't. So there's guys like Antonio Brown who can get away with murder and things like that. Not literally, you know what I mean. Look, Sammy Watkins is a guy who, the years in Buffalo, we're waiting for him to show up. He's got an opportunity here now. He looked like he did a yeoman's job this past year. I think the change of scenery was wonderful. I think Andy Reid is going to get the most out of Sammy Watkins. I don't think he's going to rely just on Sammy Watkins. Look for Demarcus Robinson to be a guy you can pick up way late. Look for Sammy Watkins to be a guy that you can pick up as the wide receiver 2/3 maybe, and possibly get you wide receiver 2/1 production, depending on his usage turn now. Here's the thing. McCall Hardman, they brought him out of Georgia. Small receiver, 5'10", 187 pounds, fast guy, but he's small. That's a speedster who can spread the field. You were laughing about Kemp before. Kemp's from Hawaii. What do they do in Hawaii? They throw the ball. That used to be the thing when you were betting on games. You could always bet the over late night in Hawaii because they were going to air it out all the time. They were going to hit the total and keep moving on. So, I mean, Cody Thompson's another name, too. By the way, stash that one away in Dynasty as well. And for more on that, you can go to the site. But I think the jury's still out on this. I think that they're still going to have the high-powered passing offense. I don't think it's going to be a type thing like we lost this guy or Tyreek Hill is down and Kareem Hunt is gone. I think it's going to be more of a plug-and-play situation. I think the running back committee is going to be fine with the Darwin Thompson they brought in and Damian Williams and Carlos Hyde. I think that they're going to be able to just do what a lot of these big-time college programs do. But they're going to do it in the NFL. They're not going to worry about rebuilding. They're going to reload. And that's the scary thing in Kansas City. They have what it takes. They have the ammunition to reload.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm excited for what Kansas, because Pat Mahomes is there. And, you know, I think Demarcus Robinson doesn't have the numbers because he hasn't had the targets. And then when we look at Sammy Watkins, Sammy hasn't been that bad. You know, Sammy did some good things in Kansas City. I want to go to Sammy's numbers a little bit here and let you know what's going down. 519 yards last season. He started in 9 out of the 10 games he played in. He caught 40 of the 55 targets he had, and that number is skewed. You know, and that number is obviously not a completely fair number because some of those passes are not good passes and whatnot. But you look at what he was able to do and the yardage he was able to get, the few touchdowns he was able to bring in. I think it is. I think it's going to be by a committee. I think we're going to see Sammy Watkins do some good things. We're going to see Demarcus Robinson do some good things as well. And, you know, Tyreek Hill, we'll see how it shakes out because clarity on the issue is still out there. We still don't know. Tyreek Hill's their best option. He's your draftable guy. He's the second, third round guy that you pick up. The other two guys, Demarcus Robinson and Sammy Watkins, are guys that you pick up, you put on your roster. You don't expect them to be the one or your two, but you use them at a flex position. You use them as a third wide receiver. You put them out there, and if they do something, gravy. If they get you 12 points, 7 points, 5 points, that could be the difference in your game. They're the guys that I would liken to coming off of your bench in a basketball game and scoring the 7 points of separation. That's what I look at when I look at these. Okay, go ahead.
Let's share this one thing. In 2 different dynasty leagues that I'm in the past month, I traded for Demarcus Robinson, and I was able to get him for a 6th-round rookie pick. This is a guy who could be a number 1 wide receiver on the Kansas City Chiefs, and I was able to steal him. If you're able to do the same thing, go get Demarcus Robinson.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing is that it's the talent to go get them and put them on your team. They're the Golden State Warriors that nobody talks about. You put them on the team, you let them get a little bit of flavor off your bench, and they give you some help. They may not help you win every game as far as getting you 20, 30 points, but they may be your separation that helps you win the game. You got to look at what each player is good for and what each situation is good for. Sometimes the 7 points is exactly what you need if you do it right on your team. With that being said, we head to the final piece of this, the AFC South, as today's fantasy live conversation on Facebook Live, facebook.com/livenowdt, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt on internet streaming radio. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com and myself, Dan Tortora of wakeupcalldt.com, are proud to bring you this advice. This is the 16 teams of the AFC. Next week, we're doing the 16 of the NFC because we wanted to spend ample time on it. We promised you 11. We over-delivered and are heading toward 11:30 right now. Marcus Mariota is still the quarterback. Ryan Tannehill of Miami is behind him now. What does that mean for Tennessee? They have 2 questionable quarterbacks that get injured almost every season. That's what it tells you in Tennessee. However, they always find a way to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars no matter what's going on. Corey Davis is supposed to be their number 1 guy. He's out of Western Michigan. He was drafted in the 1st round, 5th overall in 2017. They're still waiting. Tywan Taylor, waiting on him. Tajay Sharp did some good things, still waiting on him. Adam Humphries comes over from Tampa Bay as a free agent in March of this year. That is what it looks like in this grand scheme of Tennessee. They got 2 quarterbacks that together can share stories about injuries, confusion, and upside. And the wide receivers are trying to figure out which one of those guys is going to be throwing them the ball for 5 weeks of the season before the other guy steps in to throw them the ball, before they go and have to find a Ryan Fitzpatrick to throw them the ball for the rest of the season. So it doesn't feel good, it doesn't sound good, and it doesn't smell good in Tennessee. However, they are retiring the jerseys of Steve McNair and Eddie George, which might be their best event of the season. With that being said, what do you think about Tennessee? They have talent. I like Tajay Sharp. I would like to think Corey Davis can do something. But the thought of having Ryan Tannehill and Marcus Mariota on the same team, well, if it was a fantasy league, I would chalk that up to, why don't I just go ahead and give you the toilet bowl trophy today, and you don't have to play this season. What are your thoughts, Mike, on a team that in reality seems to have had a very bad fantasy draft?
Yeah, you know what? They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. When they get tired of running the ball, they're going to run the ball some more. They're sold on that. That's a mistake. That's not going to work for Tennessee. I don't think Derrick Henry is going to be able to shoulder the load of a full season as a dynamic player. I'd like to see it. They're going to break that down between him and Deion Lewis and try to get him those small passes. They're going to work Delanie Walker. They're going to work Janu Smith, who's his replacement, because Delanie Walker's getting old in the tooth. Let me tell you something. Corey Davis is a value guy. You can steal him in a dynasty format now, and I've done that as well. Out of sheer targets, he's the guy to own. Let me tell you when Corey Davis is going to finally explode this year. That's when A.J. Brown gets on the field. A.J. Brown out of Mississippi, 6-foot guy who weighs 225, 226 pounds. And what did he run here? He ran a 4.49. That's pretty fast for a guy carrying that much weight that tall. And let me tell you something. He can do something. Him on one side, Corey Davis on the other. The only thing stopping that from happening is Tajay Sharp right now out of Massachusetts. And I don't think Tajay has the wherewithal to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's going to get on the field. If you're in a dynasty format, get A.J. Brown. If you're in a redraft format, take A.J. Brown with your second to last pick or your third to last pick as a flyer, because this is a guy who might produce some results for you. Definitely in a dynasty league. I don't think the quarterback situation does these guys any good, but I think the threat of the run game is going to draw people up to the box, and I think that's going to be the one ray of sunshine, is there may be some openings if one of these two injured-riddled quarterbacks can make it happen.
Yeah, and and I want to thank Facebook for letting us get through the majority of this without having Mike go Frozen on us. But Frozen 2, I mean, maybe it's just a shameless plug by Disney because Frozen 2 is coming out soon. But it's it's oh my goodness. So we're gonna get Mike back here with us. So stay with us. We're on mixlr.com/wakeupcallDT. That's mixlr.com/wakeupcallDT. We're proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time, and we appreciate you being here. Mike is the invisible man on it currently right now as we get reset up to get him back on this piece. But I want to thank Mike for being a part of the show and everything that he does and being a huge piece of what we do. And I want to thank him for joining us here on Facebook Live on facebook.com/live-now-DT and on mixlr.com/wakeupcallDT for all the work he brings forward and the tremendous job he does on Hall of Fame Fantasy Football.com. So we'll be bringing Mike back in here to finish off our conversation on every single wide receiver situation in the AFC, 16 different teams. So we'll be doing that and getting that set and ready for you. And, Mike was just talking about what was going on with the Tennessee Titans and A.J. Brown, for what A.J. Brown's been able to do and the numbers that he's had and just what he's brought forward has been tremendous. So I want to thank him for the work that he has done. A.J. Brown has been a tremendous football player and done a lot of great stuff for his team. When he played at Ole Miss, had over 1,200 yards and over 1,300 yards most recently. I think he's a great addition. I think with him and a healthy Corey Davis, who had almost 900 yards last year for the Tennessee Titans last season, I should say, for him to be able to do that and have A.J. Brown, I think it opens up Tajay Sharp. Somebody's got to go into the slot. Somebody's got to make this happen. And ultimately, I think we're going to see something pretty cool here in Tennessee if one of these quarterbacks can emerge and stay healthy and stay well and stay productive. There could be something really special that we could get out of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this video on Facebook Live and bring Mike back in. For those of you that are listening on mixlr.com/wakeupcallDT, we'll continue